Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hammer Podcast. Before I begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video, share them with your friends, and please comment. It helps this channel out a great deal. Now, today is September 24th, 2020, and I am speaking with Jared Jacobski. He went to the Casa by the Sea in Mexico, correct? Yes, and
Yep.
he was
Right.
shipped over to the Agape Boys Ranch, and I don't remember where it was. You remember?
Stockton, Missouri.
Stockton, Missouri. So he's going to share his story with us today. So, Jared, if you want to just start from the beginning, and
Sure. I mean, thanks for having me on, by the way.
you're
Appreciate it.
welcome. You're welcome.
Hit that subscribe, everybody. It's hammer time,
Do you
So,
have a YouTube channel that somebody can subscribe to, or
no.
no? Okay.
I've thought about it, but maybe. Maybe this will be the beginning. I don't know.
Well, if you
But
ever do, I'll tell the people to subscribe to you.
cool, man.
All right,
Appreciate
man.
that.
Go right ahead.
Honestly, my story's a little different. I mean, I've heard all the stories, bad kids staying out late, drinking, their parents couldn't do it. Like, I was actually getting in real trouble. I mean, I'd have been arrested 20, 30 times before I went away, from burglary, theft, a lot of vandalism, just mostly theft stuff. And then finally, I got in a fight. I've been kicked out of a lot of schools, right? So probably, I hate to put this out in the public, but like 10 in high school. Like I just kept getting kicked out for drugs, fighting, like whatever.
So you were the stereotypical troubled teen.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I ran with like a gang, essentially. We called it a crew, but I mean, there's like 30 people. It'd be a gang. I wasn't actually in it. My brother was in it. I have a twin brother. He comes into the story a little bit.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I was at my last school, which was really bad. And I got in a fight there because it was just one of those, it was like a prison type school. It was like straight animals and sharks,
Right.
So I got in a fight. Well, I mean, I basically picked the fight because somebody, whatever, right? And so I got later arrested for aggravated assault.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm in juvie, waiting to go to court, and they're doing their whole thing. Because my parents are just fed up at this point. They're like, just leave him in. Let's see how this rolls out. We're not going to pull him out, And my brother, I have a twin brother, he was actually in a juvenile facility called Camp Barrett. And Camp O, excuse me. And so the thing is, the state didn't want to send me to Camp O with my brother. So they wanted me to send me to a place called Camp Barrett, which at the time I believe was like 16 and up, and I was only 15. So I was really scared, right? Like in California, this was in SoCal, right? Like this would have been just gladiator school. And so I'm like asking my parents to help me out any way they can. They came up with the Casa by the Sea thing to the lawyer, which we put it up to the judge. So I actually was court ordered to Casa by the Sea, right? And that place was a trip. I mean, it was down in Ensenada. So those kidnapper type dudes are the ones that took me down because my parents knew I would have bolted, or maybe it was a court order, and I remember they were just guarding the house. They wouldn't let me pee either, and that's a long drive from freaking San Diego down to Ensenada. So they made me pee in a cup in the back seat, and because I remember thinking like I'm going to try to bolt, the second chance I get, because I'm not going down there, and. So that place was it was a beautiful place because essentially it was on a cliffs overlooking the ocean. It was an old hotel. So they just screwed in boards to the windows and, modified a few things. But that place was like, we didn't have washing machines. So we used to wash our clothes in the pool, which was not filtered. And we didn't use the pool. It was just like a big fucking thing of water, And so kept getting rashes. There was probably like 6 people to a dorm, more like juvie, I think, for sure. They didn't feed us very well. The seminars were the weirdest thing. And there was a lot, and I had met people that had gone there, and I'm not going to say names, obviously, but they had said that they had been molested, like fortunate for me, I never experienced that. But these seminars were like, at the end, everybody was crying and hugging. That was it was the weirdest for me. It was so like, and I'm like this hardened youth at this point. So I'm like, I'm not going to cry and hug men, right? Like that's ridiculous. But that was the only way to advance. You
Yeah.
had to level up these seminars. Eventually you could become like, I guess you call it like a supervisor where you were, you had better privileges. You could go into town. That was rare. And they had boys and girls at this place for sure.
Oh, really?
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So my level, the best I got was a candy bar every week, and then no phone calls. They would not relent. You know, a couple people escaped. They always got them, and they would pass out Polaroids. This I don't know if these were real or not, but they would say the police gave us the copies of these to show you kids. You guys are gringos. Don't fucking run, right? This is Mexico. And they would show us
Wow.
these bloody pictures of like cartel murders and all that stuff. So, I mean, fortunately, I didn't get any schooling out of that at all, but I did learn to speak Spanish. So that was pretty
Well,
cool.
that's good. That's a plus, I guess.
My parents hadn't heard from me forever, right? I mean, they got these letters, but they weren't sending all my letters either. And I wasn't getting letters. They were keeping it because they would censor you.
Yeah, yeah.
Even on the phone calls, they're listening in. The second you said, phones shut off. My parents got worried because I was like the only one that wasn't talking to their parents, because I wouldn't cry. I couldn't cry. You know what I mean? Like, it
Yeah.
just was impossible.
Huh.
So they actually picked me up one day. It was the weirdest thing. I knew something was going on because I got a call to the doctor or nurse or whatever. And it didn't matter the rash, how we would get deathly ill in that place. They would never let you see a doctor. So I got a call and I knew something was up to go to the doctor. And I'm like, I knew maybe that because they want to make sure you're healthy a few days
Right.
before your parents get there, right? So you don't look like ill and shit.
Yeah, yeah.
So they gave you shots and vitamins and whatever. I didn't know that at the time, but thinking about it later, you're like, that's exactly what they did.
Well, you've heard the old saying, when you're in Mexico, you don't drink the water.
Yeah, they had a giant tank on top of the thing, and so it was kind of like those refill stations. You see
Uh-huh.
it like Safeway. But there was a giant tank that they would come in and fill it up. Everybody had their own little plastic water bottle that you had for like a month or 2 months, and it was just gross, and but it was better than the water for sure.
Oh yeah,
I
you
mean,
don't
you
want
brush
to.
your teeth with it,
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, you don't want to drink that stuff, man. That stuff.
And one day we were walking by the kitchen and we asked, because we just saw this food in there that looked delicious. All these Fiji apples. That's what they told us they were Fiji apples. We never got that stuff. We got like gross, like restaurant food, restaurant grade food.
Yeah.
And guy would tell us, he's like, we can have anything we want. Your parents are paying for this place. But like we never figured out why we didn't get any. Like the food, we had pelican a couple times. Like
Pelican?
yeah, and there were spines. They would serve us spines. It was so gross, man.
Wow.
Like I was so hungry one day. I ate a bowl of jalapenos, right? And I was standing, and you had to get checked before you go in your dorm. And I'm standing there like, I gotta go, right? Like legit had to go. And I'm standing in this line because I had to first make sure there was no weapons on you or tools to take out the
Oh,
screws. And so I'm just like about to, I barely made it. But
oh man.
and yeah, scraped the bottom of the big thing of oatmeal just to get the glip, just for something.
Yeah.
Then they finally built us like a rec center. So like 3 months I was there was no recreational activities. Finally they built exactly like what you'd see in a prison movie, right? Walled in. They brought in some sand off the beach, which had like hypodermic needles, and we were finding all kinds of stuff in there.
Uh,
But you had to play. Yeah, go
Jared,
ahead.
what year was this? Do you remember?
Must have been. I must have been 99
99.
because I left Agape in '01 and I was there almost 2 years, so it had to be 99.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mexico was still a shithole then too. So
yeah, sure,
it still is.
no
Any,
doubt. It's a fun place to go, but not on that side of
right.
it. So
All right, so they gave you sand on thing and had hypodermic needles.
and we had to wear shower shoes everywhere because they were worried about people running. But in the rec area, you could wear your shoes that you came in with, but they had them in a locker, and you had to leave them there. They lost mine, so I was stuck for 3 months playing football barefoot, basketball barefoot, or my socks, whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah, that place was a trip.
Wow.
And then
Anybody get beat? Punched,
Oh yeah, the staff
slapped.
there was crazy. I mean, it didn't happen like every day, but I mean, I saw staff members punch students, grab them, choke them out, because they were all the staff there were like trained and like I don't know, they all had martial arts training. 'Cause that's what they talked about. Was
Oh,
that they were
really?
and they were just hot headed. Some of them were really cool, and like we had a teacher that volunteered her own time to come in and help, and she would bring us pizza, like stuff we didn't have at all, right? And then just show us love, like teach us all, like, but then like boys' hygiene, shit you don't know, like in a dirty place like that, like you
Yeah.
have to keep. And she brought us tres leche cake. Like I remember that was the first time I had one of those. It was so delicious. I mean, I got my candy bar a week, and it took me like an hour to eat it because I wanted to save it.
I know.
Like,
One thing I have to say, Mexican candy is delicious. I've had it. I've had their sweet bread. I've had their candies. It's delicious.
we
I
had
mean,
the pastry.
yes,
You know?
it'll rot your teeth out quickly, but it's delicious.
Yeah, so that was that experience. I mean, I don't know, juvie. I can't tell what was worse though, juvie, because I was in juvie probably about
Hmm.
3 months before that, and that's just nothing but gangbangers calling you out, people getting stabbed. Back in the '90s,
Oh
when
yeah.
gangs were hella prevalent, in Southern California.
Oh
Yeah, so
yeah.
my parents boosted me out, and I guess I could have ran because we stopped at one point in Oceanside, which is in San Diego, and I was standing there like freedom. They brought me clothes, this crap that moms pick out. So I remember feeling like such a dweeb. But I'm standing there in these brand new shoes, and I'm thinking, there's no way they can catch me, you know. But I
What
got on the plane, friggin' Missouri.
did you have to wear uniforms at that Casa by the Sea, or was it just
It was like,
pants and
no, if I remember correctly, it was like just like white tees. A lot of the stuff you brought in, right? So I remember it was like white. It was just like just generic colored T-shirts, and then I
right?
want to say pants. But they would have. Oh, that place had a little bit of torture too, if you think about it, because we used to have these. It was like punishment rooms where you had to sit. Oh, right, there was more actually. Yeah. So these memories are flooding back. Um, the punishment rooms where you'd have to sit and read the Bible
Oh,
for like it was like 12 to 24-hour stints.
oh
And if you
man.
violated, what they literally would do, and I'd seen it a few times, they choke these kids out and they would wrap them in like a roll of carpet and sit on them and just leave them. I mean, like, because if you're imagine being snuggled up in that, and they left them there for like 24 hours. I mean,
Oh
it was
man.
shit torture, dude. I never got that because I was smart enough to realize there's nothing I can do to these people. But I'd seen one kid. He took about four of these guys to take him down, and they rolled him in carpet for like I want to say it was like a couple days.
Lucky they didn't suffocate. I mean,
Well, his head was so he looked like a pig in a blanket kind of a
mm,
thing.
man, that's tough.
Yeah.
Especially people that are claustrophobic or don't like small spaces, tight spaces. That's scary, man.
Well, even the Bible thing, you had to sit there like I guess I don't want to Native American style, right?
Right.
So you couldn't. I mean, it was really uncomfortable. And I remember one time I had the flu, and I just sat there with a roll of toilet paper, just blowing my nose all day, just dying. That's how I felt anyway. But I made it
Yeah.
through. That place was pure psychological. That's the seminars. Everything was based around just mind control, and I could not. I do not like to be controlled. Like I imagine no that, but
Well, that's usually how all these troubled teen homes, especially the ones that are religious based,
yeah,
they're usually, yeah, they want to control your mind.
they
So,
profit from
did
kids. Yeah.
if you pretended, let's say, pretended to be saved, were you granted more privileges?
Well, this place wasn't religious either, though. That's the weird thing
Really?
about it. Seminars were like I can't remember, but they were like all about just feelings and like you had to just. I remember people were telling stories about how they went homosexual. I mean, they were just. There was a lot of that. I don't know. They really pushed
Huh.
on that. It was really weird, like trying to get kids to admit they'd been molested and stuff like that. All those, so they would tell the stories. It wasn't religious though. It was something completely bizarre.
Hmm. Maybe,
I
maybe it was
can't
a
really.
maybe it was a new type of angle they were trying to go after. We can't get
maybe.
them with religion, so let's try
But
something
I
else.
couldn't pass because at the end they would rate you, and I couldn't fake to cry. You had to literally cry and hug people to pass these things, and I just couldn't fake emotions, like that
Right.
I didn't have,
Hmm.
and so I could just there was no way they just saw right through it every time. I would try so hard because I'm like, next step is I get to make a phone call and tell my parents how horrible this place is. Or get two candles. I mean, they had just had things, each level got more stuff every week. And I was stuck at that candy bar level, like the only
Uh,
person. I actually ran into one kid that had been there too at Agape. It was a trip. Like
really?
vaguely, barely remembered him, but he was in a different pod, but and he was
You,
talking about all the hugging and stuff too. It was weird.
you had something in common, basically.
They were trying to push you to be gay. I think. I don't know. It was just like I don't know. It was the
That's
weirdest.
that's interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Usually they try to beat the gay out of you if you
That's how
are.
Agape was.
Yeah.
Agape called masturbation homosexuality because they said technically you're touching a man. Like everybody, and then people would dig in on that too. Like who's doing it, right? Like, but
Right.
everybody jerked off in the showers. I'm sure. You just didn't jerk off in your bed where everybody could see you, right?
Yeah,
They catch
yeah.
kids and call them homosexuals, and then paddle them for that.
I've never heard masturbation being called homosexuality before.
It's such a trip, right? Like they'd use
Wow.
anything they could to just try to like. That's how these places do. They try to get the kids on like certain kids on your side, so that way they can bully the other kids, right? I mean, like you said, it's
Yeah,
purely psychological.
sure.
They don't have. There's only like 10 guards, really. There's hundreds of kids. They can't control them.
Did
Otherwise,
did they have other kids that were like higher levels that were watching you and
yeah. So they had like the supervisor level kids. There's probably only like maybe 1% was that, and you had to. It was through those seminars. Once you got through like fifth seminar,
oh,
sixth,
yeah, okay.
and then the girls and the boys lived together, and all they talked about was fucking each other, and it was just crazy.
Well,
I imagine the staff. They were talking about the staff, like because the staff there were like good looking dudes that did karate. I mean,
yeah.
so the girls were about the staff. So I know that shit happened.
Oh, I have no doubt. I have no doubt that happened.
I mean, they did get rated for child abuse, so yeah.
Well, I'm sure these were underage girls.
Oh yeah, everybody
Yeah.
there,
Oh yeah.
14, 15. They looked
Okay.
hot when you're that age. You're like, whoa, awesome. Anything looked good at that point.
Yeah.
But
Were the girls kept like in
yeah,
a separate house far away from the guys,
yeah,
but in the
you
same
never really
campus?
saw them. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
same
Okay.
campus. Everything was had huge walls there because it's Mexico, and occasionally they would march them through to go to the rec center when they. But that's when we figured out there was even girls there. We were like, whoa, where did they come from? You're just like everybody's staring. And then I want to say they made us like lay down or something like that when the girls came through, or because they used to do a lot of strip search, a lot of stuff like that, where they'd be like, everybody lay down. They called cover or something like that.
Right.
They would mace shit.
Strip search. The male
Yeah.
staff would strip search you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because
So
they'd
who's
look for.
so who's the homosexual now?
I know, no doubt.
So
Well, that's the weird thing is the staff. Okay, so there's a difference between the staff there. There was the Mexican locals that they hired to like basically run the kids, and then the upper staff, which ran the seminars and the grading and all that stuff. So
right.
those were you never really interacted with them too much. It was purely the Mexican dudes, locals. Some of them didn't speak any English at all, so you had to learn Spanish. And then
Yeah.
you had to speak Spanish. That was the rule too. So as much as you could.
All right. So you finish this Casa by the Sea,
Yep.
and you get flown
Yeah,
to
we flew.
Missouri.
Yeah, we flew from Orange County, so John Wayne Airport to Missouri. Stayed in a hotel a couple days. It was the greatest, because I'm drinking cokes and eating whatever I want. We go right to the facility. I've heard some guys they went to the golf course, like on James Griffey, I think,
Uh huh. Yeah.
but I went right into the main big house
Right.
where they had. It was Ma'am. I cannot remember her name. I want to remember her name for the life of me, but she was a Coca-Cola memorabilia collector.
Uh
So
huh.
the main admin area had hundreds, if not like thousands, of old school Coke memorabilia, and everything seemed cool. you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody was really nice right off the bat, you know. I got
Until.
well, yeah. So, and there it was weird. So the dorms were set up like five. I was there after the fire, but before the new construction, right? So I was involved in the construction of the new chapel and new dining area. The dorms was five of them, and they were in just one building. You could basically go around a corner to get to the other dorm, but they were sectioned off. Right, the doors had magnetic locks. Yeah, and you're right. It did get bad instantly because they introduce you to your buddy, you know,
Yeah.
but your buddy was there to torment you and teach you the rules. He's just given ultimate power over you. You had to stay because they were so. And this at this point, you're not wearing actual shoes. You're wearing them with the tongues cut out, no laces, and some stuff cut out. Right. So you're basically running around with these oversized slippers. You know, they're worried that you're going to run, and so they're always like size 14s or 15s, and you have to stay within like it's like 3 or 4 feet of your buddy, or they would literally tackle you just for fun, like skip away from you, right, and then go. It was called, if you caught somebody trying to escape, it was called, there was a name of a steakhouse out there. So if you caught somebody trying to escape, they would take you out to the steakhouse. So people would try to set it up so it looked like you were trying to escape, so they could just tackle you one and then hope that maybe they get a steak dinner out of it. Not too many people got a steak dinner, but um, you'd gun for somebody for a steak dinner. If they're running, you're like, fuck you, man. I'm going to get those flying rolls. Somebody's going for flying rolls, and you're like, fuck, that sounds amazing. I want to chuck rolls all over the restaurant.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
so mine, I'm not going to say his name, but I don't even think I can remember it. But he was, like, I mean, he had a power trip for sure. So you're wearing orange. You're in boot camp the first till you graduate. It's a minimum of like 2 weeks, and I don't remember his name, but he was he's an ex-Marine drill sergeant. So he was in charge of that. He was actually a fairly cool guy, but he was one of the ones that like threw kids' heads through walls. Like occasionally, but for the most part, pretty decent to people.
Right.
And so you got to go through that. You don't go to school. The only thing you can get dressed up for is chapel, which was twice a week, religiously, obviously. And sorry, I'm just gonna check. So yeah, so you're there and you're bear crawling, doing manual labor, push-ups, burpees, stuff like that. And then there would be boxing, right? And they used to have this thing called Pick Your Punk, and they'd have all of the guys in boot camp with all the buddies there, right? And they'd
Mm-hmm.
pick one of the buddies, pull them out, and they'd say pick your punk, and whichever one of because a lot of these kids were tough, right? So they could not handle this bear crawling for a mile. That's freaking rough, right? Or
Yeah.
chicken walk, duck walking for however long, and they would whine, and it was understandable, right? Like at the time, you're like, "Fuck, what are you doing?" But now you think back, and you're like, not everybody is built the same, right? Emotionally, mentally, physically. So these kids would just bomb on them, for like till they dropped. And I think I boxed once when I was in boot camp, but nobody really had a problem with me, because I just did it. I was in great shape back then, so it was like it was challenging for me. That part didn't really bother me, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
How was the
yeah,
food?
food wasn't bad actually. I mean, you didn't get a lot, and they regulated it. But for breakfast, I think it was like 3 days a week was like cereal. The rest was like pancakes, or I think maybe one day a week they'd make like bacon and eggs and stuff like that. And then
Wow.
you put your name on a list, and ma'am, which was the owner's wife, she would make you a custom pancake of your choice. You have whatever you wanted in it, right? And these pancakes are like, so you were really wanting to get to be that person who got the pancake, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
try to eat the whole thing, but you can't. Food wasn't bad though. Everything was scheduled right, so there was like spaghetti Wednesdays or whatever. You know, I made it out of boot camp pretty quick.
So you had some good times, and you also had, I'm sure, some bad times there. Um,
I I mean, to be completely honest, like it was really strict, and I'm not too keen on religion, to be honest with you. Past boot camp, I didn't really have like. I mean, it sucked, and I saw a lot of stuff. But I mean, I
right,
ended up section leader, which means I was in charge. I was like the student leader of the dorm for a while, because you weren't allowed to hold private conversations, right? So, like,
right,
say we're both students, we can't talk unless we have a staff member approving to overhear our conversation, and then that goes for board games, right? On Sundays when it's like free time, Saturday, you want to sit there and play Risk. You have to have a staff, and staff members were only allowed to watch so many kids, at a time. Okay, I'll tell you what, the worst thing I had was they used to give out push-ups for punishment, right? And my parents were paying for this place out of pocket, you know. They couldn't afford to come see me, and the visits were like this: like 3 months in, you got a parental visit, right?
right.
6 months, same thing, and then I think maybe you were allowed to go out to town, right? And then same up until a year, and then you could fly. I think there was maybe like one fly home visit, but I never got a visit there. You know what I mean? So I think it was right before Christmas of probably 2000. Yeah, 2000. So I'd been there almost a year and a half. They let me fly home for 2 weeks because that was, and my parents had moved to Alaska at that point. That's actually kind of emotional to think about. But so, anyways, but the night the night before I'm set to fly out, I got in trouble. So they gave me 2,000 push-ups, and the rule was they weren't going to let me fly. I swear to God, it was like
Two,
I got 1,000, and I'm halfway through the 1,000, and then they gave me another 1,000, right? And so this is the night. So I got about 1,500, and the way they did it is they gave you a little booklet, and the staff had to sign off on each set of 25. So I mean, literally for one whole night, I sat there, did like, I'm sure at the end they weren't great, but
yeah.
it's either 1,000 or 1,500, yeah, something like that. So that was pretty rough. Um, the manual labor was tough. I think I always had kind of like back issues, and I
Yeah.
think that to be honest, it came from felling trees, hauling trees to burn piles, hauling. That's what we did. We just cleared fields, right? We cleared a field to build a pool. We cleared a field to build a football field, right? We cleared a field for just to clear a freaking field. Every morning, before school, hauling rocks, regardless,
Hmm.
And then, I was there for building the pool, building the football field. And I became a section leader, I think, about 6 months in. And I was kind of a dick in hindsight. I'll be straight up, man. Like that, I have regrets for. But I mean, what do you expect too, right? So you have, what was I, 15, 16? I was probably 16. And they give me this power over 20 kids. I could give them push-ups. I could monitor games. So I had my little clique. We just sit there talking about, they called it no war stories. That was, shit from your past. And we just sit there and, actually, one of the dudes I used to hang out with in Agape, I ran into him in Washington, and we become like really good friends, like brothers.
Hmm.
That was a weird story too. Just randomly saw him walking down the street, like we looked at each other, like the recognition was there. But I'm in Paulsboro, Washington, which I'm not from, and I don't know anybody from there. And then it just clicked for both of us, And I was like, I said his last name, but I was like Tony. He's like Jacobski. Oh crap, man. So I didn't have the worst experience there. I mean, it was fucking brutal, obviously, the work and stuff like that. But
Right.
I don't remember anybody's names, man. That's so. I think there was something there, trauma wise, because like even now, like I could put their faces, I see their faces and I recognize them, but I can't remember anybody's name from there except for Nam, Brother Burton, um, none of my friends.
Did they make you memorize Bible verses and all that
Oh
kind of
yeah, for
stuff?
trouble. I had to recite them in front of the whole. Oh yeah, I remember that. That's funny. This one kid had to do like the whole book of Psalm or like something crazy long. Like, dude, like I can't remember how. And he was like a good kid. He was the kid that always snitching on people. And it got found out. He was, his. I won't. I do remember this kid's name actually, but I'm not gonna say it. But he had to do the most verses I'd ever seen before, and it was pretty funny to watch because you're like, you fucking pious, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, man. I think, to be honest, what I got out of Agape that hurt me the most in life was probably the anger. I came out real angry for sure. Um, and then we did boxing classes, so now it was good. Like I
Right.
wasn't just this little street kid. I could fucking fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it cost me when I was 19. I got in a fight with a security guard at a mall, and I got lucky to avoid a felony. But I did get a misdemeanor for it to go to jail. Um, and then, I kind of, when I hit 21, something happened where I got arrested, but I was able to join the Navy to avoid it,
Okay.
which fucking saved my life. And, ever since then, I've been pretty, so I don't know, like, I don't have a lot of trauma from there, but I did get that anger, and I knew it. I knew it was from that. It was just from like staff members, like just taunting you. Seeing the level of tension between kids that really have no beef, right? There's no gangs in that place. Everybody came from pretty decent backgrounds, except for a handful of us. Um,
Right.
yeah,
Well, you guys definitely had it better than the girls did. Some of the stories that I've
uh,
heard from some of these ladies, man,
bad
it
man.
was bad. It was bad. Um,
Well, that's why I
you
wanted to
know.
talk to you because it's like not everybody shares the same story, but parents need to have all the info, and
Oh
I
yeah.
hope this stuff gets out. Like I hope your podcast gets out. You know what I mean? To massive people, they could make choices before.
Sure. It's just every time I interview somebody or have a discussion with somebody, just a little bit more comes. You know what I mean?
Right,
A few things that somebody from the previous podcast didn't say comes out. So when these parents or whoever listen to this, they kind of get more of a fuller picture of what
yeah, I
what's
dig that.
going on over there.
And
And
they had. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I've always told people, if you're going to be sending your kids to these schools, do your research, man.
Especially now, like in the
Yeah, I
'90s.
mean,
But
well,
like
see,
now,
see, back then the internet was very small. You know
right?
what I mean? You had the AOL garbage. We had to do the dial-up or whatever. So it was pretty expensive too to have. I mean, now it's not. Well,
Right.
I take that back. It is a little more expensive now, but
It's more expensive, but it's worth it at least.
yes, it's worth it. There's more tools available for people. The thing is, though, some of these places like Agape and Rebecca and Bethesda and some of these other places, if you go to their website, you got these kids that are playing and big old smiles on their face and they're having a great time.
Testimonials and stuff. Yeah.
Testimonials. This is a great place. They got the person, the picture, and they're smiling and they're having a great time. You never hear about the bad reviews.
No,
Of
of course
course,
not.
they're not going to put it on their website. So I encourage people when they go to these websites to also go to forums. Go to
Yeah. What a Yelp.
Agape. Yes, go to Agape Boys Ranch forums, and you're going to see horror stories. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Because they're not going to put that on there because they want your money. And I've always
Yeah.
said that religion is a business, and it's always been a business.
No, I agree with you, and that's my problem with religion. Like whether there's something out there or not, religion is not the answer. There was a 10-year-old kid there. I remember that. His name was. I do remember his name was Bradley. I'm sure he graduated from that place too.
Hmm.
Can you imagine spending that whole. And he got tortured by the older kids. Not me ever though. That's the one time I got in a fight there. Actually, one of the two times somebody kicked the little kid and I punched him, and then we got the box. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't like bullies, even though I was kind of a dick. You know.
And there were probably some kids there that were true believers. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They were saved and they followed Christ's teachings even after they left
sure.
Agape. I mean,
Well, some stay on for staff. As staff afterwards for a short time.
oh, you did? You staff too?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you
I said
didn't?
some do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I got.
James Griffey did.
Yep. No, I had the.
Wow.
My parents told me they're like, just graduate and you can come home. So I graduated 2 weeks before my 18th birthday, and my parents had moved to Alaska. I flew out as fast as I could get out of that place. They offered me to stay on as staff, and I was like, nope, not a chance, man.
No.
That was a good day for sure. And then my parents, they knew they fucked up, because like I would talk about it, and they were like, "Don't talk about that place." Like at family dinner, they knew they fucked up. They didn't want the shame of it.
I mean, spending ungodly amounts of money, I'm sure, on that
At
place.
least, at least that place had to be. I have no idea, but it had to be what, 2,500 a month at least. I would imagine.
And you had probably what? How many kids were there at a single time?
300 maybe. No,
300,
like 200 probably.
200, then you multiply that times 25 a month.
A lot of the staff worked for free, basically just room and board. Maybe probably a small stipend.
Yeah.
Well, and they were ex-students. There was I only remember last names because that's how we went by, so I'm not going to say him. But there was a Korean guy that was really, he was one of the, there was 3 Korean staff members that were students that stayed on.
Hmm.
One of them was like an ex-champion, Taekwondo champion. He could do the running up the wall flip thing.
Wow.
Yeah, he was not. He would take kids out too sometimes. Yeah, for sure. There's no getting past that guy.
Yeah, when you got that kind of training, it's no way you're gonna beat him.
Like
So,
one of the best memories I have from there is when we would go do hail bang, right? And it was free labor for this guy who owned the farm. I wasn't. I'm sure they charged, right? Because we've heard the golf story. There's no way. It's just like Shawshank Redemption. I heard
yeah,
that part. It had to be.
yeah,
But we would bale hay for like all day, which now you think about it and you'd be like, man, I'd want like 30, $40 an hour to do that kind of labor. But, you're just eating it up. And then because at
sure,
the end, there was Mountain Dews. So
right.
all that labor for like 2 Mountain Dews, what I mean? It was pretty fun.
Yeah, and like you said, like the Shawshank Redemption, he probably underbid everybody.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they were
you know,
maniacal
oh
for
yeah,
sure.
oh yeah, a lot of manipulation, I'm sure a lot of bribery and theft and everything else going on. It's a religious organization. You can't get away from
Yeah.
it. I mean, no matter what they tell you, you can't get away from that stuff. You see it all the time now.
Yeah.
Whether it comes to pedophilia or bribery or robbery, it's all in the church. They can't deny it.
Yeah, and I wish it would come out more for sure. But I mean, I guess people speaking out is the only way. Code, break the wall or whatever you want to say.
Well, sometimes they do those undercover investigations, and the thing is, if they catch them red-handed, being frauds,
Right.
just they go on a hiatus for a couple of years, and then they come back stronger than ever.
Under a new name or a new license under their
Yeah.
cousin's name. I still can't get I need a copy of my diploma
Uh huh.
just because I'm trying to, go back to school and they won't send it to me. Like they either lost it or whatever, but I'm like, dude, I need my diploma.
Is that place still open?
Yeah. Oh,
It is
yeah.
still open.
It's Agape boarding school is what it's called.
Oh,
I think
boarding
it
school. Yeah.
originally, so they moved a couple times, right? They started out in Stockton, California. That's what it was called, the Agape Boys Ranch. And that place, again, from what I understand, was even way worse. Then they moved out to Stockton, Missouri, probably to avoid the law, obviously, right? And their
Right.
first place, so they had 2 locations there. One was like, there was another son, that's right. He ran the second location, which they had a little bit more freedoms, but the guy was like considered to be a psychopath. Like he beat the shit out of those kids, is what we were told, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And oh god, I remember I went out there a couple times because they had horses. I mean, this place had emus, horses, water buffalo. I mean, they had all kinds of crazy shit and that's all we did was work this farm, one way or the other. But I met the guy once, and he was intimidating for sure. There was something weird about the guy that I never liked.
Well, the these religious organizations, I've noticed that you have a lot of these pastors, preachers, whatever, evangelists. A lot of them are their main sin, so to speak, is homosexuality. They're
Oh, this place was
always
so
they're
against it.
always
Yeah.
preaching against homosexuality. But I've noticed that the ones that are preaching against it are normally the ones that are
Yeah,
doing
that's
it.
weird how that works out, right? I mean, I have to imagine that some kids there got molested. I never heard about it, you know, but I
Yeah.
mean, I can't imagine that it didn't happen. Um, the main guy in charge, the guy that ran the day to day, I only remember his last name, so I'll just call him Brother B. He, I mean, he would say things like, "If your toothpaste has any taste to it, that makes you gay, right? Like, be a man, right? Like, I want my toothpaste to taste like." I mean, that's all he pushed was anti-gay. He was the one that started the whole "if you touch yourself, you know, you're gay
Right.
because you're touching a man." Um, and that was weird. They would literally try to like catch people at night masturbating. It was so fucking weird.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. Oh, so this is one of the worst experiences I had there. Actually, we'd come
Okay.
back from these. Saturday was work day, right? You spent like 8 hours out working, and it was hot in Missouri.
Oh, yeah.
We would come back. So they wouldn't let us drink water. I remember that, and we would come back to the dorm rooms, and guys were like, we weren't supposed to drink out of the faucet. Like that was a rule. I would do it because I'm like, fuck that. The kids were scared to do it, so they would go to the toilets, lift the toilet thing up, and drink out of the back. Because it fucking, dude, it was like 110 degrees out there, humid. It was brutal.
Well,
I
I know I'm originally from South Texas, so I know it's
imagine.
brutally hot. Yes.
Like I grew up in San Diego, but that wasn't hot. You know, it was just nice. You know,
Wasn't a lot of humidity in San Diego.
no, just the beach, man,
Just the
and the
beach.
buns. You know,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We had the same thing in Corpus Christi with Padre Island. Oh yeah. Beach and buns.
I'm trying to move to
Definitely.
Austin actually here pretty soon. Transfer, get a. Well, I'm gonna transfer my job.
Uh-huh.
Austin has got my name on it. Maybe I'll visit Agape at some point.
Yeah, if you want to. I,
Trip.
yeah, it would be. I'm sure the same staff members that were there when you were there were probably still there.
That
Maybe.
would be weird to see. I think a lot of them. Oh God, how do they? I don't, man. I don't even understand how that place is still going. I mean,
Well, the
I don't
thing
know.
is, if people aren't saying anything about it, they're going to continue to operate. You know,
Right.
if nobody's bitching about it or anybody's telling the cops, hey, this is what's going on, they're going to continue to operate. Now, I'm not sure if they need a license to run these facilities because they're dealing with teens, with underage kids. But I mean, that's why that's how. Have you ever heard of a guy named Lester Roloff?
Mm.
No. Okay, he was the one that was basically the centerpiece of all these troubled teen homes. It all
Was he the
started.
one in Alabama?
No, he was the one in Corpus Christi, Texas. He started off with the Rebecca home and the Anchor home and the Lighthouse home back in the 50s and 60s. That's
Okay.
how this all started. And then you got the Bethesda, and then all these guys that were emulating this man because he died in 1982. But they would, they liked his teachings, they followed his teachings, and they decided to open up their own place and use his format as their own. And it got a lot of them in a lot of trouble. Some
I
of them
bet.
were there was rape going on, there was torture. I mean, it was just
Jesus.
ridiculous. Yeah. So, and you mostly hear it from the girls' homes. The boys'
Yeah, those
homes,
are the ones that are hard to watch. The post podcasts. Like I listened to
yes,
the one with you and the girl from Circle of Hope or something.
yes. Amanda, yeah.
That's so tough, man. Like we had a paddle room. You know, kids
Hmm.
would get, you know, and they would threaten you with like, we'll hold you here past you're 18 if we want, something like that. But it was nothing like what I've heard about with the girls' places. Because I mean, it's mostly men staff and they're young and it's fucking sick, you know.
Yeah, yeah. There's one. I think there was one I did where it was Cindy, I believe, from Bethesda. They would say they would make them pull their panties down to spank them. It's like, really? Do you actually need to pull their panties down to spank them? You know what I mean?
That's how they did Agape though. They'd make the kids bare. I never got a paddling, but it was bare ass, you know. I'm like, what
Yeah.
the fuck, man? Really? You know?
Well,
How is that needed?
I can understand if it was a female staffer doing it, you
Right.
know. But if it's a male staffer telling one of the teen girls to do it,
So is
eh,
that stuff still going on right now?
there are some places I believe that are still open. As far as the originals, the Rebecca Home, the Bethesda, they're closed.
Right.
Right now in Corpus Christi, original church that started the whole thing, I believe, the People's Baptist Church, uh, they still have two homes, but they're for adults. They're not dealing with kids anymore. Yeah, it's just too much of a headache, because you got to deal with the state,
Right.
and if they want to get away with these things, you want the state out of it. So, deal with adults.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is they think kids don't have rights, but it's like, no, kids are protected under the Constitution. Just that's why they moved to Missouri, Agape. They knew it. I mean, they
Hmm.
told us that. They're like, they could paddle kids. There was I think Missouri has some of the laxest child abuse laws in the country.
I'm sure they do their homework and
That's
pick
so
the
sick
pick
and
the
twisted,
state.
man. If you think about it, like,
Yeah,
do your homework. Where can I beat the kids best? Oh, Missouri,
pretty much.
Alabama.
And some of these homes closed because they needed a state license.
Right.
So they would shut the homes down, move to another state where you didn't need a license. So and Rebecca home, they went from Rebecca home to the Rebecca home in, I believe it was in Florida, and then they changed names, and then they went to California, changed their name. So they're bouncing around. They're
Changing
bouncing
their names
around,
like a
changing
Chinese
their,
buffet.
yep,
Holy shit.
changing names, changing staff, changing states, all to avoid the state government and probably the federal government as well, so they can do whatever they do. So,
Yeah, I saw a piece recently where they did. It was King 5 News up here. They're doing a documentary about. I think it's Bethesda, maybe Bethesda Boys something. I guess
okay,
it's probably one of the worst ones, but Agape as well apparently.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So
I'm
it's
excited for it. Yeah,
yeah. Hopefully soon they can just shut these places down. You know, I mean, if there were kids that truly needed help, mentally, whatever, go to a reputable
yeah.
place. Go
Well, like
to
me,
a
I needed help. For sure.
right, right. I mean, psychological help. Go to a place state run that could help. I mean, they're sure as hell not going to be beating you and starving you like some of these
Right.
places. So, but I'm sure that any institution is going to have their problems. I mean,
Right.
I've
Right.
heard of state-owned or state-run institutions that have had abuse, and whether it's physical or sexual or mental, it happens. We're
Right.
human. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody fucks up. You know what I mean?
No, I do.
So, but these places that are supposedly religious run, as far as Baptist or whatever denomination it is, they're supposed to be setting the example. You know what I mean? And they're not. They're just as bad, if not worse, than some of these state-run places.
Yeah, this place was Independent Southern Baptist, something like that. I mean, they wouldn't let the women wear pants to the
Yep.
beach. They had to wear like a dress and like tights.
Right.
They were freaking wackadoos.
That's that's
Essentially.
that's the Baptists. That's the
Yeah.
Baptists. Yeah. You pants. Roloff always said pants on a woman is rebellion.
Yeah, that's how they treated it.
Long
And I
hair.
asked him one time, I'm like, but you can't tell what they look like under those dresses. Like that's part of the fun of the imagination.
Right.
Like,
But that's
yeah,
that's
whatever, dude.
lust. That's lust. You can't be.
It's yeah, for sure.
You
Well,
know.
some of these guys would level like like they stick to the guidelines, right? But you'd be off on a work project, maybe three guys and then one of the staff, and it'd become more friendly.
Right.
But
Well,
it didn't, you know.
but you have to wonder though, what did these staff members or even the person who was running the place, what did they do behind closed doors? You know what I mean? If you ever
Probably
get a
some crazy
chance,
shit.
if you ever get a chance, I did a video with a girl named Donna about the Rebecca home. And these staff members, they would tell you no drinking, no smoking, no fornicating, no nothing like that. But then behind closed doors, they're drinking, they're smoking, they're
Yeah,
having
for
sex
sure.
with each other. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Do as I say, not as I do, basically.
Yeah, yeah. That's how this
You
place
know.
was too.
So they're no better than anybody
Right.
else. They're human, just like you are, just like I am. They have their faults. So it's just
So
one
you
of
gonna
those
air this?
things.
You gonna air this podcast?
Oh yeah, oh,
Oh,
definitely.
cool.
definitely. Um, but now, after you left Agape,
Yeah,
did things? I mean, you said you were angry.
yeah, yeah.
Were you bitter? Were you
Well, I was really mad at my parents for a while, obviously.
understandably?
Um,
Understandably.
and I think my relationship with them has never been the same. Like I said, I love my mom, but my dad, I mean, because it was his choice, essentially, you know.
Right.
And
Right.
I do kind of feel like I kind of forgave him a little bit because, like I told you, my past, right? I was headed down.
Right.
I mean, I don't think I would have graduated high school. I skipped all the ninth grade, so I didn't have. I came in Agape with like shit credits. I mean, literally for me to graduate, I finally got in trouble the last 2 months and lost my section leader, or like last 4 months, lost my section leader status because I was telling my mom I wasn't going to graduate. I'm like, fucking, I want to come home. I was trying to manipulate her, you know,
Right.
and I got caught because she called them, you know, saying, "Well, he's not going to graduate." She was all worried, and then they dropped me from section leader, and I busted my ass, dude, for like 4 months because it was all at your own pace, you know.
Right.
Graduated. I don't feel like I would have graduated. I probably would have been stayed down in San Diego. Most of my friends I grew up with, they did 10 years, 15 years in prison here and there. Um, yeah, so I mean, I was in Alaska. I fucking worked, man, for 3 years. I did get into trouble, and then ended up joining the Navy. And after that, I don't think I really. I mean, I got married. I was married for like 16 years up until last year. I've
Wow.
worked, got my degree, been smart, put my anger in check. You know, um, and I don't think I necessarily learned that from Agape, but I learned it in spite of Agape or because of Agape. You know what I
Well,
mean? Because of the experiences.
you didn't need God to do it. You did it on your
No,
own.
I didn't need God to do it. Absolutely not. I did it on
Exactly.
myself. I think, and I think that place would have worked without all the hate, and if they didn't hate people and try to pit everybody against each other and without all the violence, I
Right.
think I know a lot of people that came out of there angry, right? Like I got a good friend. I mean, he's a freaking outlaw biker, right? Like who knows if that's the path he would have taken, um, without it. And I mean, he's a fucking great guy. Loves his family. Works his ass off. He's not a bad guy. Don't get me wrong. But
Right.
I mean, who knows what path he would have taken? And maybe he'd be a doctor. Maybe whatever.
Or he just would have been a biker. You know.
Or he could have just been a biker.
We,
And I ride with him. He's a fun guy.
yeah.
He's a great guy.
You know.
Um,
I guess
yeah.
everybody's on a path, whether or not
Yeah, but you can
something
get.
will deviate them from that
Yeah.
path. Nobody knows. But like you said
Yeah.
before, hindsight's 2020. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So you look back now and said, "Oh man, I could have done this. I could have done that." Well,
Hmm.
it's. But hey, you know what? You're alive. You know, so you didn't let that place get the better of you. You know.
No, I didn't, and I think that, like I said, my story is different than most, right? Because most
Right.
people came out with a lot of fucking trauma, and
Oh
I don't really
yes.
feel that, to be honest. And it saved my life for sure. Um, it was probably better than going to that Camp Barrett and being with. I would have came out just hardened, beyond repair,
Yeah.
and at least I was able to get past that.
And I truly believe a lot of these places they think they're helping you. At least in their eyes, they think, well, whipping them or
Yeah,
beating them or making them do this and that is going to help them become a better person. But honestly, like you said, it makes them bitter. It makes them even more
yeah,
angry than they were before. Like I said, some people were true believers going in. They're still believers now, but then there's some that were bad, troubled teens going in, and even worse coming out. You know,
yeah.
so I mean, it's not the success rate is very low.
Well, the thing that boggles me is the kids that went in there that were like good kids. I don't. That's the parents I wish they'd reconsider these kind of do really do their homework, right? If some of these kids never did anything wrong, their parents just thought they were sending them to a boarding school,
Yeah,
not for tough love. I mean, it's unbelievable.
And like I said, the internet really wasn't around back then, so they had just by word of mouth or from other people.
from their churches, you know.
Yes, I was gonna say, were your parents church goers? Were they avid
Oh
church
yeah,
goers? Okay.
yeah. That's I'm sure that's how they found out about the place.
Oh,
At some point.
I have no doubt. That's where they heard it from. And I'm sure whoever told them probably gets a commission.
Dude, wouldn't that be a fucking trip?
It wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me because I've always said it's all about the money. It's all
Oh,
about the
it
money.
straight up is. They
You
had
know,
nice stuff. The owners of them. They were riding around in nice cars. Look at that Coca-Cola collection.
yeah.
They had a big house. That whole
They're
property was theirs. I mean, just
yeah.
that alone with the pool. Kick the kids out, and it's freaking Hugh Hefner's. I
Yeah.
mean,
They're not doing this stuff for free.
no,
Now
that's a problem.
right.
Churches too, for that matter.
But it used to be when Lester Roloff first started these homes. He said, "I don't charge people. They come
Really?
in if they need help. I don't charge them. The taxpayers don't pay a dime." He went off of donations
Oh
and
shit.
offerings and stuff. That's how it started. But when he died, it just went haywire. Greed set in, you know, and now they're charging $600,000 a month for these
Is that
places.
it? It's not that much.
Well, this is Texas. This isn't California or
Right. Right.
Missouri.
Yeah. No, I get that.
The cost of living in California is pretty high.
Yeah,
So
for sure. Missouri, it's
Tex,
not. Missouri was a trip, man. You see some families, like guys would come into town to do work, and you see their family, and they looked all like they were related. The mom, the dad looked like brother and sister, but they were husband and wife. And because we were in deep Missouri, you know, they would scare all the black guys too, and be like, they did it on purpose. This is kind of messed up. They'd show them a picture of the police department. They were like, "Look at all those good old boys. Do not run." And we were like, "Well, that's fucked up." But they weren't racist though. I'll say that. I mean, like to the face, because like kids would use, they'd get in an argument, and they'd use a racial slur, and then the staff handled it well. They would just let them box, right? And most of the
right?
black kids came from Brooklyn, and they knew how to. They would tear some shit up.
Yeah,
Um, there was
yeah.
a vegetarian kid that pretty sure they never fed him. They just like tricked him into eating shit that had meat in it. So messed up.
Yeah, yeah. It
But that
just,
makes you gay, eating vegetables.
I, I guess. I mean, if that was their mindset.
I don't
So,
know.
but all in all, like I said, you came out with a few bruises, a few scrapes, but you seem like you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, man,
So
life's good. I'm
that's
37 now,
that's
though. But I got there. Just took a little longer than normal.
yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Well, man, it's you got anything else to add?
No, I think I'm good.
All
I
right.
appreciate you having me on, though.
Hey,
Absolutely. I'm glad you let me tell my story. Um, and I hope that if anybody's out there listening, that you'll not just hear my story, but you'll hear all the stories.
yes,
And
and actually, if you do have a story, whether it's Agape or whatever troubled teen home you're in, if you want to come on, just go to the top of my channel page on YouTube. There's a phone number right there. Give me a text, and we can schedule a time. That's
that's
no
awesome.
problem if you want to get your word out there, because I've noticed that it's getting more and more. Uh, People are starting to come out more, basically,
Yeah.
to tell their stories, and people are starting to notice. I mean, you have, I believe it's Mackenzie Millar. She's got Paris Hilton, you know, on her was it Twitter or TikTok or something like that.
Yeah.
So, people are starting to notice now, and hopefully
Interesting.
enough word gets out, they might decide to investigate more into these homes, and any of these homes that need to be shut down, shut them the hell down.
Well,
You
yeah, they need
know.
to be regulated.
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
like a restaurant, right? If you have a restaurant, food inspector's just going to stop by. These places need to have fucking inspectors that come by,
Oh yeah.
unannounced.
Right. Right.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
So,
Well, Jason, I appreciate you having me on. And I wish you the best of luck in your podcast, and hope you get a
Thanks,
ton
Jared.
more stories, bro. It was a
Yes,
pleasure.
well, it was, if you know anybody and they want to tell their story, just have them
I got a friend. Let me see if I can send him your way.
give me a text, man. It'd be great. Or have him give me a text.
Yeah, I'll
But it
give me your number.
was all right, man. You take care of yourself, Jared.
Yeah, you too, Jason. I appreciate
All
it,
right.
man. For real,
Yes.
this was cool.
We'll talk. We'll
All
talk
right,
later on. You know what I mean?
I'm down.
We'll
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
in touch.
yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, let me know if you need anything back on. I'll remember more stuff, or like
okay.
a double
Or
podcast or something.
sure. I mean, if you remember more stuff, hey, we'll get you back on.
Yeah,
That is not a problem.
sounds good.
All right, man. You take care of
Take
yourself.
care. All
Okay.
right.
Bye.